Child, tuck yourself in bed. Let me tell a story of Lemuria, a kingdom past, and a girl born for glory.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey O'Hallam. I'm the writer of Child of Light. Child of Light is about a young girl, the daughter of a duke from 1895 Austria named Aurora, who wakes up one day in this magical lost continent called Lemuria, and she wanders through this world looking for her way home and discovers that the sun, the moon, and the stars have been stolen by this evil queen, and she needs to recover them to get back. But along the way, she'll discover that there's a lot more going on than she originally thought.
Lost from our world came she. Treachery gave close chase.
It's a love letter to JRPGs, but at the same time, it's much more accessible. It's trying to bring this style of play to gamers who have never played a JRPG before. It's a brilliant rule set that really challenges you to think during combat. It's turn-based, so you wait and kind of contemplate your next move. So it's a very different form of navigating through a fight than you would find in other genres. And at the same time, we wanted to create something that's like a playable poem. So it uses the UB art framework, so you can take concept art from that's been made and directly imported into the game. And so we have this beautiful art style, and the music is going to set a unique mood, and the writing is in rhyme. So it's an epic poem.
3 long lost lights to save, a mad queen to defeat. The journey would transform her destiny to meet.
There's a timeline during combat that charts where the enemies are in terms of, they're kind of building an attack, they're preparing an attack, and where Aurora, the main character, is preparing that attack, and the characters that she works with in combat. So you're partnered with people in combat. And so when Aurora is ready to attack, she chooses an attack, and then there's an attack period where she basically delivers that attack. And during that period, which is this red zone, an enemy can interrupt her attack, which will cause her to lose a turn and become vulnerable, or she can interrupt other enemy attacks. And so there are certain attacks that are faster in the red, where Aurora will shoot through the red to pass an enemy and then attack them so they get interrupted. And there are enemies who can also stop Aurora on the timeline, and there are allies that will help you speed up and slow down time. It becomes this really interesting, complex game of figuring out when to hit and when not to hit, and when to dodge and block. We introduced this idea of cooperative on-the-couch gameplay, where you're next to the person that you're playing with on the screen, because we were inspired by playing something like Ni no Kuni, and the problem is you can only play single player, and so you have to wait. If you have a child, for instance, you have to wait for the child to go to bed before you can play, which seemed counterintuitive to us, because you want to play the game with your family, and you want to experience this thing not alone. I think traditionally a lot of games have been about going off on your own and kind of being separate from people. We wanted to create an experience that was about togetherness. And so we created this 2-player co-op where you can sit with the other person, and each of you plays a different character. One of you plays Igniculus, who is Aurora's friend, this Firefly, who helps her through the darkness, or you can play Aurora. And the different styles of play allow you to be more lazy and more laid back, or more in front making decisions. And also the interaction between the 2 characters and how you feel as you're playing each factors into their relationship in the game story as well. So you kind of experience that that sidekick versus hero relationship literally. Child of Light is a coming-of-age story. Aurora comes of age along with the player, because in a JRPG you're leveling the character, and that leveling, you choose who the character becomes through skill trees, and I wanted to explore that character formation in the story. And so you have this young girl who is a certain kind of person when she arrives in the world. She's mischievous and forceful, but also very sheltered. And then she kind of encounters this dark world and has to make her way through it. And she's learning to defend herself, and she's learning to challenge ideas that she's been taught in the past. And so that growth and that transformation was something that I felt had a lot of power. I think, especially for my generation, our parents really protected us a lot because they wanted the world to be a certain kind of place. And in school, you're also taught that the world should be this righteous, logical, fair place. And then you leave that environment and you kind of face a world that is not logical or fair always. I mean, I think we're getting better at making it like that, but at the same time, I think if you're unprepared for the world as it is, you end up in a pretty bad situation. And so I wanted to create a fairy tale that talked about that kind of showed the world for what it really was, not what we want it to be in our head. Fairy tales traditionally have been about imbalances in the culture at the time. You know, we wanted to go back to the place where fairy tales came from, that serious. It's not a dark place, but it's a real place. You know, like not just do a fairy tale because it's beautiful, but do a fairy tale because it says something that society needs expressed at that moment. And so what I would say is, if you look at the great fairy tales, even the ones created today, like The Lion King, or you know, a little earlier, like Bambi, they are dark. And it's not too dark. You know, we're not talking Pan's Labyrinth. But for me, that's one end of the scale. You look at Pan's Labyrinth, and that's a super dark fairy tale, and then you can look on the other side at something that is very fluffy and safe, and we're in the middle. Child of Light is coming out in 2014. I wish I could be more specific, but we'll see. I think earlier rather than later. And it's coming out for PC and current gen and next gen consoles and as a digital download.
The path home tragic and faint.